Hey folks, welcome back to another podcast from the Tampa Florida Living channel. We've got a really fun topic today, and I've got Phil from my team that's going to join us to discuss this. We're going to talk about winters up north versus winters in Florida. There's clearly a difference, but Phil is from up north. He moved down here 12 years ago, and there's no one else better to join me on this podcast than him. We get people moving here all the time, and they're all like, I can't do another winter up north. Get me down there, help me find a house before, I have to go through this again. And after helping thousands of people move here, we've literally heard, 10, 15, 20 different reasons of why they don't want to go through another winter up north. So let's talk about that, because Phil brought up the other day that that's definitely a debate, because sometimes there's some really good things about winter up north that we don't have down here in Florida, but I would disagree sometimes. So let's get right into this debate, Phil. What are some of the things that you can think of that pop in your mind that, we could talk about as far as what winter up north looks like versus down here? And keep in mind, I think right off the bat, everybody can think of, hey, it's cold. It's unbearingly cold in some of those regions where it snows really heavy. We're down here, I'm on the beach in December. So tell me your first thing that comes to mind with that.
Yeah, obviously weather is a huge part, especially, being now on both sides. I'm actually been here 14 years now, Adam. So
okay.
20 years up north, 14 years here now in Florida. So obviously two big difference as far as climate and environment. As far as things that are different, for me is holidays. Holidays is the first thing that comes up. There is nothing more special than I believe than holidays up north. You got the snow, everybody's in the holiday spirit. It's a much different dynamic up north than it is up here, because I've only spent 2 winters as far as the Christmas breakdown here. So
okay, go back up, and that's Jersey, right?
And that's in New Jersey, yeah. So I had 2 Christmases now in Florida. So it's just so weird for me. I can't. I tell my mom about it all the time. Going into the mall, you see Santa Claus, and you're sweating. It's something that is just not relatable. It's not in that DNA that I grew up in. So that's been quite an adjustment these last 2 years for me.
But let me ask you this, though. I agree. I think something about a white Christmas is kind of special, that we don't exactly get down here, because we have palm trees, not, Christmas trees, like real Christmas trees, right? So my question to you, though, is this. My family, between Christmas and New Year's, we like to get away, and we try to chase the snow sometimes. And sometimes we're looking around like, where do we fly to find snow? So does it really snow every Christmas in New Jersey, though? Because that's a big question. I mean,
it does not snow every Christmas in New Jersey.
There you go. So you're over here trying to tell me that you have a nicer Christmas. The setting's right. It's it's not necessarily a white Christmas. It sounds like if it rains, it's going to be a little bit of a slushy, muddy Christmas. Am I right?
Right. Absolutely. It's funny because, you're coming off the fall up north, which is, usually, the best time of the year, right? Leaves are falling. The air is nice and crisp. You can kind of be out a little bit in a t-shirt, but it's got a little chill to it. So when you're there, it kind of then all of a sudden winter comes out of nowhere. So it's just like that spirit again. A lot of things up north change, with the seasons. Your drinks, the food, the dining. You think Rockefeller Center, everything's starting to change. Towards that time of the year. So it's just like a special feeling. You're stuck inside a little bit more. You're playing board games. You get a little bit more family time. It just, again, like it's just a different type of feeling that I haven't really had here yet,
Yeah, and I won't disagree with you. I think the changing of the leaves, we don't really get that here, right? So you get those maple leaves changing, all those maple trees. And you get all those changing of the leaves and going through fall and the pumpkin patches and all that. Like our pumpkin patches are a little dusty. And then you have, picking apples and all that stuff, all that season. So that is really nice.
It's the lead up. It's the lead up to it,
But that's not really heavy winter. That's fall, to be fair. Winter, I'm talking December, January, February.
Right.
And so here's one thing that was interesting that you just mentioned, and it popped in my head because one of these, one of my past clients, one of the past buyers that moved down here mentioned this to me, and I never really heard it that straightforward. But you mentioned, sometimes we're indoors. what my client mentioned was, he said, Adam, one of my reasons to move down there is I've got a 16-year-old, and man, he's just getting kind of moved to a new school. He's getting new friends and figuring things out, but he's 16. He should be out at dances. He should be playing soccer, because he came down and he saw my daughter playing soccer with the friends and everything. He's like, he should be outside playing soccer. He should be doing all this stuff and activities, but it's just, we're kind of snowed in. They came from Chicago. And he's like, it's a little bit of depression sets in seasonally, but it can set in because he's like, all he's doing is playing video games and talking to his friends through video games nowadays. And so he just missed that personal connection. So, I mean, I haven't experienced it. I've always lived in Tampa. I've traveled a lot, but I've lived in Tampa. Is that something that actually happens with, like seasonal depression in a way?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like the topic of like serotonin versus melatonin. Serotonin, we're from the Sunshine State, right? So the sun's responsible, for increased serotonin levels, dopamine, right? Endorphins, all those feel good, happy hormones, right?
Sunday fun day.
Sunday fun day. You don't get the Sunday fun day, out up north, because it's more gloomy. 4 o'clock, it starts to get dark. It's got that dusk. It raises those melatonin levels, right? That are going to make you, again, more tired, less energy. So you definitely feel those, around the environment, as well. So it definitely plays a large role for sure.
Yeah. And I didn't even hit on that side. You're talking about gloomy days. I'm more talking about the heavy winters where you're snowed in, or it's just like, man, you got to throw on these heavy jackets. You got to like suit up.
They're gloomy.
Okay.
They're gloomy.
See, over here, I remember shooting a video where I took my kids to the beach in December. And yeah, we were in a long sleeve shirt, because in Florida or in Tampa, you got to wear a long sleeve shirt, or maybe even a jacket if it drops under 70, right? Because our bodies are acclimated to a little bit warmer weather. And so, if it's 70, but we're still on the beach building sandcastles in December and January. I just took a boat out here in February. So that's amazing, where basically 12 months around the year, we're outside, we're having fun, and we're getting out there and just always doing something. So yes, I agree with you. And I felt that from that client that came here. As soon as he came here, he's like, man, and he was here in February. He's like, man, I got to move. I got to move soon, because this is for myself and for my son. But, it's funny. You're talking about dopamine. I've seen it another way. Again, something else I didn't have, which I had another guest on here probably 2 years ago on my YouTube channel that was from the DMV area. And he's like, Adam, after about 3 or 4 months that he moved down here, he's like, hey, guess what? I don't have to take vitamin D supplements anymore.
Yes.
I said, vitamin D supplements? What is that? Like, honestly, I didn't know at the time. He goes, yeah, when you're from up north, you have those days without the sun and just different things. And you have to take some of those vitamin D supplements. But after he moved down here and lived a little bit, from being outdoors, being in the sun, he didn't have to do that anymore.
Right.
And I'll even give you one more. You were talking about, I know I'm on a roll here.
Good.
You were
Keep
talking
going.
about, you played hockey for a long time, right?
Yes.
And so I think that you even touched on something with the weather and how that functioned with your body.
Yes. It's actually interesting, because obviously, with vitamin D levels, right, stronger bones, your bone density, especially as you age, right, that's one factor. But again, arthritis, inflammation, especially with the long hockey career that I had. It's a very physical sport. I can tell you, every time I go up north, it's just my back. Even in my mid-20s, I mean, you can just feel the difference as soon as you get to that real bone-chilling cold weather. So I can't lie, I haven't experienced, that during these last 2 winters that I've been here. So it definitely, the climate plays a big role as far as, the way that your body feels. And it's kind of interesting too, because, when you're talking about all these things, I'm going to the beach, I'm on there at the beach with my kids. You're almost keeping like the same routine, that you have all year round, where when you go up north, everything is changing during the winter. Like, if I thrive on routine. So if I don't have my routine, I'm in trouble. So, if you're not somebody that can get back on, it's tough.
When you say routine, you mean like staying active and then kind of shutting it down or trimming back, and then you have to like adjust to getting active. It's almost like,
Yeah, it's
man,
like
you
a
were right.
season.
You were in the right of the peak shape, and then you're back to the couch, and then you're like, okay, now we have to get back, and it's a hurdle to get over.
Right. Like every morning, I get up and I go for a walk or a run. I can't do that, when you're up north. So my routine obviously is not the same. So again, right, and that creates habits. So for me, it was constantly changing, and it's hard to keep a routine, when you're going based upon the weather. So
Yeah,
that's
I'm
been a
gonna I'm
big
gonna
factor.
I'm gonna go back to one, and then I got 2 points. Just as you're talking, uh, I'm reminded of some of the stories again from all these people that move here that we chat with. But one guy, older guy, probably in his 60s, maybe mid 60s, upper 60s, not too old, but definitely a grandfather, came down with his young grandkids, and they were saying, "Hey, I'm going to explore Tampa, but in the meantime, I'm going to use it as an exploration trip. Make sure I want to live there, just scope it out, and then we're going to have a little vacation. We're going to go to Disney, the beaches, and all that." And he had arthritis in his knees, and so he said, "Man, I came down there cautiously to do Disney because I know it's a lot of walking." He goes, "Man, I'm not going to lie to you. I came down there not thinking that I wanted to move there because of the heat and everything else. But I was able to walk the entire day
Yeah.
with my kids and my
Mhm.
grandkids at Disney and felt pretty good. Like, not saying he didn't feel anything, but he felt pretty good." And then he's like, "Man, then the next day I was fine. I figured maybe I'll be sore." He's like, "The next day I was fine. The next day I was fine." And this is not confirmed because I didn't look up the stats, but he did say that there's measurements on
There is.
arthritis zones based
Yes.
on weather, environment, and different things. And he's like, I guess Tampa's one of those spots, maybe because of the humidity, the moisture
Yeah.
with the warmth, that it's actually a pretty good zone for you.
Yeah, there's a
Uh,
lot of scientific evidence that I studied that for a long time back in school, and there's a lot of research that supports that for sure.
yeah, so that was kind of a neat, discovery. So that vitamin D deficiencies, all those things that I don't think about living here because it's just a norm for me that somebody from up north kind of told me, but that was kind of neat. But
Well, and just to bounce off that, right? So like it's 100% true everything that you said, but then there's like this other side too. So I probably relate to a lot of people. I have allergies, that are pretty intense. And
yep,
when you're up north, you get the break of the allergy season during the winter time. So you get that
okay.
relief period for, a couple months where, a month ago I come out, to my car out here and I have an inch of pollen on it and I'm driving around and my car is gray and I look like a highlighter driving down the road. So,
Yeah, pollen's heavy right now, man.
yeah,
Pollen's heavy. We're in
yeah.
March. Pollen's
So
heavy.
yeah, so body moves a little bit better joint wise, but it's from an allergy perspective, you don't get that relief here in Florida for sure.
But you can get nose spray, and you can't put a nose spray for your knees.
That's true. That's true.
So you got
You can
ice
use,
packs,
you can
maybe
use ice. You can use ice.
ice and Advil, I guess. But um, the one thing you mentioned though was seasonality.
Yeah.
Seasonality, I think, is a huge one. And I got to think that you were in the training business before
Yeah.
this, right? You
Yes.
were a trainer. Especially with hockey and things like that. You had an entire business based on that, which is basically a self-employed business in a way.
Yes.
I came from a place where I was self-employed before a decade plus of real estate in the restaurant business and things like that. So yes, there are seasonalities, but does that get affected up north in the winter? Because I know down here things are 12 months a year round. How does that change? Does that get affected up there?
It greatly gets affected. I mean, one thing I can speak of, obviously, since the world has changed, things have gone more online. I'm sure the disruption, now is not as great as it was back when I was a kid in the '90s. But
Yeah.
I like to probably speak behalf of people that are in the service industry. If you're getting paid time for money and you're surviving off, appointments, like as a trainer, if I'm not training you at the gym, I can't get paid. If a barber is cutting your hair and you can't
Yeah.
make your appointment because the weather's inclement, you're not going to get paid. So if you add all those days up, throughout the winter, you have a lot more market share to act on, and then you take the state income tax out, and then you're much happier in regards to that for sure.
Yeah. I would say, man, that, one of the things that gets affected, I couldn't imagine being a realtor up north because, I do, believe it or not, I sold 4 houses in Chicago last year, a couple in the DMV area, just basically from all over Colorado, wherever anybody's moving from. I always ask first questions, do you have a realtor where you're from? If not, we usually have a pretty good network over the years that we've built up. So I'm like, I got a guy there. I've got a person there. And they sell the homes, and it's just good. And I'm not affiliated with them other than just having a good person in those cities. But I do find it interesting that they always say, hey, we're going to put their house on the market in March, right? And then once they sell the house, then they can come here and buy. So it's kind of funny. They reach out to me in like November, January, but they really don't make any moves until like March, April, which is, springtime kind of things are kind of loosening up a little bit. But in the height of, winter, they're not always making that quick move. So I find that funny. It's like, imagine being a realtor, showing homes in January. I can't imagine that.
I could imagine.
That'd be slow season.
Yes. Yeah. Especially like, growing up there's a huge prep, especially during that type of year. I mean, especially in my day back, like in the 90s, you couldn't just hit a button to start your car. You had to go out there, you had to scrape all the ice off. There was a lot of prep before you can actually get on the road. So as far as, we're always going to showing here, showing there, the timing would definitely become an issue for sure.
Yeah. I've got to play devil's advocate. I can't only be one-sided because, this is a discussion. This is a podcast about winters up north versus winters in Florida or winters in Tampa. And so, if I had to throw one on the negative side here in Tampa, I would say seasonality, since we've already been talking about that, is that we get a ton of snowbirds. Snowbird season is a real thing. It doesn't affect, it's funny. It's like certain ways it affects me, certain ways it doesn't. Like locals don't go to the beach. I mean, yes, I took my daughter once in December. Like I think my wife just took my daughter the other day, took her off for school and went to the beach here in early March. But at the end of the day, we don't go to the beach now. We can't get in the water, and the water is beautiful here in the summers. It gets in the mid 80s. It's like bath water. For me, that's beautiful. I can't go in if it's in the 70s. People from up north, you see them all and swimming, and it's like, what are they doing? But
I was just at the beach yesterday.
But you're not going to get in the water, or maybe I'm not going to get in the water.
I got in the water yesterday, but I was with all the Jersey families, so they kind of forced me in there.
No chance. Yeah. It's like a cold plunge. But basically, we're not going to the beach, and that's snowbird season at the beach. So it's busy then. I like to go to the beach late spring into like the heavy summer when it's 90 degrees outside and it's hot. That's when I like to go because I'll bring a canopy tent, shade, and then I go into the water, right? So the beach snowbirds don't affect me because I don't go to the beach in the winter as much. I will say that the restaurants and things like that I normally do visit, they do get busier because snowbirds come down and they also want to enjoy the things that we enjoy. So from that front, it gets a little
traffic.
It gets a little annoying. I don't know that you guys have people from down south going, I'm going up north. Do you?
Nah, not really. You don't really hear that too much.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Those are some of the things, man. I mean, do you have anything else that pops into mind that we can go back and forth before I tie a bow on this thing?
I mean, just obviously, getting pretty even time both places. I have to decide with Florida, obviously, again, I think it's a different lens when you're an adult. I have a lot of my memories as a kid, and, when responsibility and all those things start to come into play. From the business perspective, again, not having, when we have hurricanes here, they get kind of blown up through the media. It's not as bad as it gets projected to be. We usually have plenty of notice when something's happening. So again, not always having to zig with the zag, again, is really nice. And then having routine and all those different things we talk about, again, the market share to be able to be at work more often. And then again, just overall, Florida. That's why I'm still here.
So I'm putting you on a spot. Did I just hear you say that you'd rather have Florida winters? If you had to compare the two, you'd rather have Florida winters versus winter up north?
After all these years, I'm going to have to go with you on that for
At
sure.
least as an adult. At least as an adult, right?
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, a lot of those great memories are as a kid when you don't have those responsibilities. That you're just looking at it from a different lens now. But yes, there's. If I had to be somewhere, it's here.
And here's the beauty. You can always get away. You can always chase the snow like we do between Christmas and New Year's, right?
Yes, yeah. You,
So,
you know what? It's a quick plane ride away. You know, you know what? You get a dose of it for a week or two. I had the joy of doing that over the last 15 years, going back for the holidays, but then coming
yep.
back right here. That's the best of the both worlds.
There you go. So, folks, if you've made it this far, we've definitely gone through the pros and cons of winters up north versus winters in Florida, specifically Tampa. I'd love to hear from you. Leave it in the comments, but you heard it from the horse's mouth. Phil would rather be
You got
in
me.
Florida than up north. And you know where I stand. I'm on Florida all day. So we'd love to have you next week. Come join us in the next podcast. And until that next video.